Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll continue our reading from the Nectar of Devotion by Srila Prabhupada, originally by Rūpa Gosvāmī, Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, chapter 23. We'll start our reading today from Mukham Karoti Vachalam, Pangum Langhayate Girim, Yat Kripatamam Vande, Shri Gurum Din Tarinam Paramananda Madhavam, Shri Chaitanyeshwaram, Hari Om Tat Sat. Krishna's personality. Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī states that although Lord Krishna is the reservoir of unlimited pleasure and the greatest leader of all, he is still dependent upon his devotees in three ways. According to the emotional status of the devotee, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is appreciated in three ways: as the most perfect, as very perfect, and as a perfect. When he exhibits himself in full, he is appreciated by the learned scholars as most perfect. When he exhibits himself in lesser degrees, he is called very perfect. And when he exhibits still less, he is called perfect. This means that Krishna is appreciated for 3 degrees of perfection. These 3 degrees of perfection are especially exhibited as follows. When he is in Golok Vrindavan, his transcendental qualities are exhibited as most perfect. When he is in Dwarka, he exhibits his qualities as very perfect. And when he is in Mathura, he exhibits his qualities as perfect. Krishna's personality is analyzed as Dhiro Dat, Dhira Lalita, Dhira Lalit, Dhira Prashanta, and Dhiro Dhata. If one asks how a personality can be beheld in 4 quite opposing ways, the answer is that Lord is the reservoir of all transcendental qualities and activities. Therefore, his different aspects can be analyzed according to the exhibition of his limitless variety of pastimes, and as such there is no contradiction. Dhirodat. A Dhirodat is a person who is naturally very grave, gentle, forgiving, merciful, determined, humble, highly qualified, chivalrous, and physically attractive. In this connection, the following statement given by Indra, the king of heaven, is very significant. My dear Lord, I admit that I have committed great offenses unto you, but I cannot express my feelings of regret, being bewildered at seeing your extraordinary chivalrous spirit. Your endeavor to protect your devotees, your determination, your steadiness in lifting the great hill of Govardhan, your beautiful bodily features, and your astonishing characteristic of being pleased simply by accepting the prayers of your devotees and offenders. The other statements by the King of Heaven is an exact corroboration of Krishna's being Dhirodata. Many learned scholars have agreed to also accept Lord Ramchandra as Dhirodata, but all of Lord Ramchandra's qualities are also included in the character of Lord Krishna. Dhir Lalit. A person is called Dhir Lalit if he is naturally very funny, always in full youthfulness, expert in joking, and free from all anxieties. Such a Dhir Lalit personality is generally found to be domesticated and very submissive to his lover. This Dhir Lalit trait in the personality of Krishna is described by Yagyapatni, the wife of the Brahmanas who were performing sacrifices in Vrindavan. She tells her friends, one day Srimati Radharani, accompanied by her associate, was taking rest in the garden, and at that time Lord Shri Krishna arrived in that assembly. After sitting down, he began to narrate very impudently about his previous night's pastime with Radharani. While he was speaking in that way, Radharani became very embarrassed. She was feeling ashamed and was absorbed in thought, and Krishna took the opportunity to mark her body with different kinds of tilak. Krishna proved himself to be very expert in that art. In this way, Krishna as Dhir Lalit was enjoying his youthful proclivities in the company of the gopis. Generally, those who are expert in writing drama choose to call Cupid the ideal Dhir Lalit, but we can more perfectly find in the personality of Krishna all the characteristics of Dhir Lalit, Dhir Prashant. A person who is very peaceful, forbearing, considerate, and obliging is called Dhir Prashant. This Dhir Prashant trait of Krishna was exhibited in his dealings with the Pandavas. On account of the Pandavas' faithful devotion to the Lord, he agreed to become their charioteer, their advisor, their friend, their messenger, and sometimes their bodyguard. Such is an example of the result of devotional service toward Vishnu. When Krishna was speaking to Maharaj Yudhishthir about religious principles, he demonstrated himself to be a great learned scholar, but because he accepted the position of younger cousin to Yudhishthir, he was speaking in a very gentle tone, which enhanced his bodily features. The movements of his eyes and the mode of his speech proved that he was very expert in giving moral instruction. Sometimes Maharaj Yudhishthir is also accepted by learned scholars as Dhir Prashant, Dhirodhat. A person who is very envious, proud, easily angered, restless, and complacent is called Dhirodhat by learned scholars. Such qualities were visible in the character of Lord Krishna because when he was writing a letter to Kalevan, Krishna addressed him as a sinful frog. In his letter, Krishna advised Kalevan that he should immediately go and find some dark well for his residence, because there was a black snake named Krishna who was very eager to devour all such sinful frogs. Krishna reminded Kalevan that he could turn all the universes to ashes simply by looking at them. The above statement by Krishna seems apparently to be an envious nature, but according to different pastimes, places, and times, this quality is accepted as a great characteristic. Krishna's Dhirodhat qualities have been accepted as great because Krishna uses them only to protect his devotees. In other words, even undesirable traits may also be used in exchange of devotional service. Sometimes Bhim, the second brother of Pandavas, is also described as Dhirodhat. Once, while fighting with a demon who was appearing as a deer, Krishna challenged him in this way: I have come before you as a great elephant named Krishna. You must leave the battlefield, accepting defeat, or else there is death awaiting you. This challenging spirit of Krishna's is not contradictory to his sublime character, because he is the Supreme Being. Everything is possible in his character. There is a nice statement in Kurma Puran about these contradictory traits of Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is stated that the Supreme Person is neither very fat nor very thin. He is always transcendental to material qualities, and yet his bodily luster is blackish. His eyes are reddish, he is all powerful, and he is equipped with all different kinds of opulences. Contradictory traits in Krishna's person are not at all surprising. One should not consider the characteristics of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to be actually contradictory. One should try to understand the traits of Krishna from authorities and try to understand how these characteristics are employed by the supreme will of the Lord. In the Mahavaraha Puran, it is confirmed that the transcendental bodies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his expansions are all existing eternally. Such bodies are never material. They are completely spiritual and full of knowledge. They are reservoirs of all transcendental qualities. In the Vishnu Yamal Tantra, there is a statement that because the personality of Godhead and his expanded bodies are always full of knowledge, bliss, and eternity, they are always free from the 18 kinds of material contaminations: illusion, fatigue, errors, roughness, material lust, restlessness, pride, envy, violence, disgrace, exhaustion, untruth, anger, hankering, dependence, desire to lord over the universe, seeing duality, and cheating. Regarding all of the above mentioned statements, it is understood that Mahavishnu is the source of all incarnations in the material world. But because of his greater extraordinary opulence, we can understand that the son of Nanda Maharaj is the source of Mahavishnu also. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, wherein it is stated, Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Govinda, whose partial representation is the Mahavishnu. The gigantic form of Mahavishnu is the source of generation for innumerable universes. Innumerable universes are coming out of his exhaling breath, and the same universes are going back in with his inhaling breath. This Mahavishnu is also a plenary portion of Krishna. Chapter 24, Further Traits of Sri Krishna. After describing the different opulences of Krishna, Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī tries to further describe the transcendental beauties and qualities of the Lord as decorated, enjoying, pleasing, dependable, steady, and predominating. He is also described as a meticulous dresser and a magnanimous personality. These are generally considered to be the qualities of greater personalities, decorated. It is said that a person is great if he is decorated with the qualities of being very merciful toward the unfortunate, very powerful, superior, chivalrous, enthusiastic, expert, and truthful. These decorations were manifested in the character of Krishna during his Govardhan Leela. At that time, the whole tract of land in Vrindavan was being disturbed by the rains sent by Indra, as described elsewhere. At first, Krishna thought, let me retaliate against this vengeance of Indra by destroying his heavenly kingdom. But later on, when he thought of the significance of the king of heaven, Krishna changed his mind and felt merciful toward Indra. No one is able to tolerate the wrath of Krishna. So instead of retaliating against Indra, he simply showed his compassion for his friends in Vrindavan by lifting the whole of Govardhan hill to protect them, enjoying. When a person is seen to be always happy and is accustomed to speak smilingly, he is considered to be in the mode of enjoyment. This trait was found in Krishna when he appeared at the sacrificial arena of King Kamsa. It is described that the lotus-eyed Krishna entered among the wrestlers without being impolite to them, glanced over them with determination, and seemed to them just like an elephant attacking some plants. Even while speaking to them, Krishna was still smiling, and in this way he stood valiantly upon the wrestling dice. Pleasing. When one's characteristics are very sweet and desirable, his personality is called pleasing. An example of Krishna's pleasing nature is thus described in Srimad Bhagavatam. One day, while Krishna was awaiting the arrival of Srimati Radharani by the bank of Yamuna, he began to make a garland of kadam flowers. In the meantime, Srimati Radharani appeared there, and at that time Murari, that is Krishna, the enemy of Mura, glanced over Radharani very sweetly. Dependable. Any person who is reliable in all circumstances is called dependable. In this connection, Rūpa Gosvāmī says that even the demons were relying upon the dependability of Krishna because they were confident that Krishna would never attack them without due cause. Therefore, with faith and confidence, they used to live with their doors wide open. And the demigods, although afraid of the demons, were confident of the protection of Krishna. Therefore, even in the midst of danger, they were engaged in sportive activities. Persons who had never undergone the reformatory ritualistic ceremonies of the Vedas were confident that Krishna would accept only faith and devotion, and so they were engaged in Krishna consciousness and were freed from all anxieties. In other words, all kinds of men, from all the demigods down to the uncultured, can rely on the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord. Steady. A person who is not disturbed even in the situation of reverses is called steady. This steadiness was observed in Krishna in connection with his chastising the demon known as Bāṇa. The Bāṇa demon had many hands, and Krishna was cutting off these hands one after another. This Bāṇa was a great devotee of Lord Shiva and Goddess Durga. Thus, when Bāṇa was being chastised, Lord Shiva and Durga became very furious at Krishna, but Krishna did not care for them. Predominating. A person who can affect the mind of everyone is called predominating. As far as Krishna's predomination is concerned, in the 10th canto, 43rd chapter, verse 70 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna is described thus by Shukadeva Goswami to King Parikshit. My dear king, Krishna is a thunderbolt to the wrestlers to the common man. He is the most beautiful human being to the young girls. He is just like Cupid to the cowherd men and women. He is the most intimate relative to the impious kings. He is the supreme ruler to his parents, Nanda and Yashoda. He is just a baby to Kamsa, the king of Bhoj. He is death personified. To the dull and stupid, he is just like a stone. To the yogis, he is the supreme absolute truth. And to the Vrishnis, he is the supreme personality of Godhead. In such a predominating position, Krishna appeared in that arena along with his elder brother Balram. When Krishna, the reservoir of all meadows, was present in the arena of Kamsa, he appeared differently to the different persons who were related to him in different meadows. It is stated in Bhagavad-Gita that he appears to every person according to their one relationship with him. Sometimes learned scholars describe predominating to mean a person intolerant of being neglected. This peculiarity in Krishna was visible when Kamsa was insulting Maharaj Nanda. Vasudeva was asking Krishna's assistance in killing Kamsa. And Kamsa was dancing over Kamsa with longing eyes, just like a prostitute, and was just preparing to jump at the king. Meticulous dresser. A person who is very fond of dressing himself is called Lalit or a meticulous dresser. This characteristic was found in Krishna in two ways. Sometimes he used to decorate Srimati Radharani with various marks, and sometimes when he was preparing to kill demons like Arishtasur, he would take care to arrange his belt very nicely. Magnanimous. Persons who can give themselves to anyone are called magnanimous. No one could be more magnanimous than Krishna because he is always prepared to give himself completely to his devotee, even to one who is not a devotee. Krishna in his form of Lord Chaitanya is prepared to give himself and grant deliverance. Although Krishna is independent of everyone, out of his causeless mercy, he is dependent upon Garg Rishi for religious instructions. For learning the military art, he is dependent upon Satiki, and for counsel, he is dependent upon his friend Uddhava. Chapter 25. Devotees of Sri Krishna. A person who is always absorbed in Krishna consciousness is called a devotee of Krishna. Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī says that all the transcendental qualities discussed previously are also found in the devotees of Krishna. The devotees of Krishna can be classified into two groups: those who are cultivating devotional service in order to enter into the transcendental kingdom, and those who are already in the perfectional stage of devotional service. A person who has attained the stage of attraction for Krishna and who is not freed from the material impasse, but who has qualified himself to enter into the kingdom of God, is called sadhak. Sadhak means one who is cultivating devotion in Krishna consciousness. The description of such a devotee is found in the 11th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 46 of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said that a person who has unflinching faith in and love for the personality of Godhead, who is in friendship with devotees of Krishna, and who is very merciful to the ignorant, raising them to the standard of devotional service, and who is uninterested in non-devotees, is considered to be situated in the position of cultivating devotional service. When one is found shedding tears by hearing the pastimes of Krishna, it is understood that the blazing fire of material existence will be extinguished by such watering. When there is shivering of the body and hairs of the body stand up, it is to be understood that the devotee is nearing perfection. An example of sadhak cultivating devotional service is Bilu Mangal Thakur. When a devotee is never tired of executing devotional service and is always engaged in Krishna conscious activities, constantly relishing the transcendental mellows of in relationship with Krishna, he is called perfect. This perfectional stage can be achieved in two ways. One may achieve this stage of perfection by gradual progress in devotional service, or one may become perfect by the causeless mercy of Krishna, even though he has not executed all the details of devotional service. There is the following nice statement in the 3rd canto, 15th chapter, verse 25 of Srimad Bhagavatam, describing a devotee who achieves perfection by regularly executing devotional service. A person who is freed from the false egotism of material existence or an advanced mystic is eligible to enter into the kingdom of God known as Vaikuntha. Such a mystic becomes so joyful by constant execution of the principles of devotional service that he thereby achieves the special favor of the Supreme Lord. Yamaraj, the mighty superintendent of death, is afraid to go near such devotee. So we can imagine the potency of advanced devotional service. Especially when devotees sit together and engage in talking of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, those devotees express their feelings in such a way that they automatically melt with ecstasy, and many transcendental symptoms become manifested in their bodies. Anyone desiring advancement in devotional service must follow in the footsteps of such devotees. Prahlad Maharaj said that no one can attain the perfectional stage of devotional service without bowing down before exalted devotees. Learned sages like Markandeya Rishi attained perfection in devotional service simply by executing such regulated principles of service. A person's achieving perfection in devotional service simply by causeless mercy of the Lord is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in connection with the Brahmins and their wives who were engaged in performing yajna or sacrifice. When the wives of the Brahmins were favored by Lord Krishna and immediately attained the ecstasy of love of Godhead, their husband says, "How wonderful it is that although these women have undertaken no reformatory performances such as accepting the sacred thread, have not resided in the monasteries of the spiritual master, not have observed the strict principles of celibacy, they have not undergone any austerities and have not philosophized upon the observance of ritualistic ceremonies, they still have attained the favor of Krishna, which is inspired after even by great accepting the sacred thread, have not resided in the monasteries of spiritual master, have not observed the strict principles of celibacy, have not undergone any austerities, and have not philosophized about the observance of ritualistic ceremonies, they still have attained the favor of Krishna, which is aspired after even by the great mystics. How wonderful it is that these women have attained such higher perfection, while we, all the Brahmins who have performed all the reformatory activities, cannot attain to this advanced stage. There is a similar statement by Narada addressed to Shukadeva Goswami, "My dear Shukadeva Goswami, you never took the trouble to reside and take care of spiritual master, yet you have attained such great status of transcendental knowledge. You never took the trouble to undergo severe austerities, and still how wonderful it is that you have been situated in the most perfect stage of love of Godhead." Shukadeva Goswami and the wives of the Brahmanas performing yajna are vivid examples of devotees who achieved the perfectional stage of devotional service by the grace of Supreme Personality of Godhead, eternal perfection. Persons who have achieved eternal blissful life exactly on the level of Sri Krishna and who are able to attract Lord Krishna by their transcendental loving service are called eternally perfect. The technical name is Nitya Siddha. There are two classes of living entities, namely Nitya Siddha and Nitya Baddha. The distinction is that the Nitya Siddhas are eternally Krishna conscious without forgetfulness, whereas the Nitya Baddhas or eternally conditioned souls are forgetful of their relationship with Krishna. The position of the Nitya Siddhas is explained in the Padma Puran in the connection with the narration of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Satyabhama Devi. The Lord tells Satyabhama, "My dear Satyabhama Devi, I have descended to this earthly planet by the request of Lord Brahma and other demigods. Those who are born into this family of Yadu are all my eternal associates. My dear wife, you should not consider that my associates are ever separated from me. They are my personal expansions, and as such, you must know that they are almost as powerful as I am. Because of their transcendental qualities, they are very, very dear to me, as I am very, very dear to them. Anyone who becomes exhilarated by the I'm very, very dear to them. Anyone who becomes exhilarated by hearing of the pastimes of Lord Krishna when he was present on this earth with his associates is to be understood as Nitya Siddha, eternally perfect. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 32 of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is the statement, "How wonderful are the fortunate residents of Vrindavan, such as Nand and other cowherd men. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Brahman, has actually become their intimate friend." A similar statement is there in 10th canto, 26th chapter, verse 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Lord Krishna lifted Govardhan hill. The cowherd men, under the protection of Lord Krishna, became struck with wonder and went to Nand Maharaj and inquired from him, "My dear Nand Maharaj, how is that we are so intensely attached to Krishna and that Krishna is also affectionately attached to us? Does it mean that he is the super soul of everyone?" All the residents of Vrindavan and Dwarka, namely the cowherd men and the members of the Yadu family, are eternally perfect devotees of the Lord. As the Lord descends by his causeless mercy upon this planet, so in order to keep help in the pastimes of the Lord, these devotees also come here. They are not ordinary human beings. They are ever liberated. They're not ordinary living beings as conditioned souls. They are ever liberated. So persons, associates of the personality of Godhead. And just as Lord Krishna behaves like an ordinary man when he descends to this planet, so the members of the Yadu dynasty and the residents of Vrindavan execute lost the thread. They're not ordinary men, they are liberated as Lord Krishna himself. Just as Lord Krishna behaves like an ordinary man when he descends to this planet, so the members of the Yadu dynasty and the residents of Vrindavan execute activities just like ordinary men, but they are not ordinary men. They are as liberated as Lord Krishna himself. In the Padma Puran Uttarakhand section, it is stated that as Lord Ramchandra descends along with Lakshman, an expansion of Sankarshan, and Bharat, an expansion of Pradyumna, so the members of Yadu dynasty and the cowherd men of Vrindavan also descend with Lord Krishna in order to join in the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. When the Supreme Lord returns to his eternal abode, like associates return with him to their respective places. As such, these ever liberated Vaishnavas also descend with Lord Krishna in order to join the transcendental pastime of the Lord. When the Supreme Lord returns to his eternal abode, his associates return with him to their respective places. As such, these ever liberated Vaishnavas are not bound by the material laws of birth and death. As stated in Bhagavad-Gita by the Lord himself, his birth, deeds, and activities are all transcendental. Similarly, the birth, deeds, and activities of an associate of Lord are also transcendental, and as it is an offense to consider oneself to be Krishna, so it is offensive to consider oneself to be Yashoda, none or another associate of the Lord. We should always remember that they are transcendental, they are never conditioned souls. It is described that Krishna, the enemy of the Kamsa, has 64 transcendental qualities, and all of the ever liberated souls who accompany the Lord have the and all of the ever liberated souls who accompany the Lord have the first 55 qualities without any doubt. Such devotees are related to Supreme Personality of Godhead in any 5 transcendental mellows, namely neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parenthood, and conjugal love. These relationships with the Lord are eternal, and therefore Nityasiddha devotees do not have to strive to attain the perfectional stage by executing regulative devotional principles. They are eternally qualified to serve Krishna. So next time we'll continue our reading from chapter 26, Stimulation for Ecstatic Love. Thank you for joining. Hare Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.